Hi everybody, this is Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make this easy beginner's wattle stitch cowl. This is so much fun and easy to make, and this is made with a specialty yarn, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit, but it is also a great project where you can throw a lot of those leftover pieces of yarn you're not sure what to do with, even if they're very different from one another. Get them together and see what we can do. And let me show you what else you can do with this. I've always wanted to do that. You can also wear this cowl as a cover-up, as a snood, keeping your ears nice and warm and your chest as well when the wind starts to blow. And you can also wear it as an over-the-shoulder, kind of a roundabout shawl as well. All right, well, let me show you another version of this very same project. You can also make it into a solid, cushy, cozy, one color project as well. So there's really no limit to what you can do with this project. But let me go ahead and show you what you're gonna need. For this project, I'm going to be using two yarns. The first is by Yarn Bee called Alpaca Twist. And let's look at some of the stats. This is 3.5 ounces or 175 yards. And let's see, it is 90% acrylic and 10% alpaca. This yarn it doesn't have a number, but I am estimating it is a worsted or a heavier worsted weight. So it's between a number 4 and a 5. And I'm also going to be adding the Yarn Bee Bejeweled. Now this is an option. If you don't want to add this and you want to just be nice and soft, that's fine. But I am going to be adding the Yarn Bee Bejeweled. It's a sequin thread to this piece. And some of the stats on this is 328 yards. It is metallic and sequins and polyester combined. And I'm going to use 2 of these for this project. And I'm also recommending that you have a size L or 11 or 8.00 millimeter crochet hook. Yes, it is oversized for the yarn, and it's going to give us a really nice effect for this cowl. And I'm also recommending you have a pair of sharp scissors and a yarn needle handy. One other thing that would also be very helpful is if you have a stitch marker. This again is optional. You don't have to use this, but this will be very helpful in knowing where the beginning of the round is. Before we get started, let me say something about the size. The circumference of this cowl or shoulder wrap is approximately 42 inches. Now, should you like to add to that 42 inches to make it just a bit wider, should you have a wider set of shoulders, or you want to make it extra large or 2 or 3X, all you need to do is for each inch that you add, and before you begin, I highly recommend that you just measure yourself or have someone measure the circumference around yourself, and do keep in mind that the yarn is going to have some additional ease built in. So while this particular project is 42 inches in circumference, there is additional ease. In other words, it can stretch a little bit larger than that. But that said, if you want to add additional width to the rounds, all you need to do is add 3 additional stitches for each inch that you desire to add. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. One additional thing, the sample that I've shown you with the very different yarns all put together, this is a specialty yarn that I purchased. It's called Jambalaya. I purchased it a couple years ago, so it may not be available from this yarn company, but there are many other companies out there that produce these varied yarn balls. Or you could also put together various leftovers from your stash that you have left over, and just use those to combine to make a beautiful shoulder wrapper cowl. But this particular one had approximately 400 yards, and I just wanted to show you that in case you do happen to run across any yarn from this company. It was a lot of fun to work with. To begin, we're going to hold both of the strands together, both the yarn and the strand with the sequences. And we're going to make a slip knot pull that nice and tightly. And now we are going to crochet a chain of 120 chains. Now remember, if you are going to make your wrap or your cowl longer, wider, you need to add the chains now. You would just take 120 and you would add a multiple of 3 depending on how many stitches, or I'm sorry, inches that you wish to add to the circumference. So go ahead and do that calculation and then crochet those chains. After crocheting 120 chains, we are going to join to the first chain to make a giant loop. But before we do that, let's make sure that the chain is not twisted. We're going to just carefully keep the front side of the chain, and this is the front side with the V showing. Let's go ahead very carefully, and it's a good idea to take your time in doing this as we start the foundation round. Okay, and then I'm going to put the hook in the side of the chain just like this and work a slip stitch. And we are going to work in that same chain in just a second. Go ahead and chain 2 and working in that very same chain. And if you would like, you can even work over this thread at the same time. Not to confuse you, but I'm going to go ahead and work over this left over remnant there. Single crochet, chain 1, and then we work a double crochet worked in the very same space. Okay, so now I'm going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then in the next chain just working along the side, and I'm going to work over this tail as well. We work another waddle stitch, single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. And I'm going to work over this strand one more time. We're going to skip 2, 1, 2, and then working in the next chain. And go ahead and bring that strand over there. If that's too much to deal with the loose strand, just leave it alone. Don't worry about it. We can hide that at the end. Single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. Again, worked in the same chain. And let's pause and see what we have. And that is what we are going to work. I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and trim this so we can be done with this. There we go. And let's just continue on. Skip 2, 1, 2, and in the next chain, and make sure you get that little strand as well. Single crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. So go ahead and work that all the way around, and I will show you the join at the end of the round. Now that we are all the way around, let's check to make sure that the round is not twisted in any way. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch to the chain 2 right here. Just put it into the entire chain, not a single loop, just the entire chain. Make a slip stitch, and let's take a look. And I love the way this is sparkling a bit. And now we're going to chain 2 and turn. And we are going to continue with the waddle stitch for the remainder of the rows, and they will all be started in the same way. So this is row 2, and this is the row we're going to repeat until we basically run out of yarn, or until the project reaches the width that we desire. And as we get closer to the end, I'll definitely be giving you the number of rounds, etc. Although, again, this can vary depending on the yarn that you use and how wide you wish this to be. Okay, so we're going to work a waddle stitch, that single crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet. And notice that I am working only in the chain 1 spaces. I'm not working in the single crochet or the double, only in that chain 1 space, and you should be able to see that opening very easily. So let's go ahead and do that again. Working in that chain 1 space, single crochet, chain 1, double crochet, And do make sure that the little thread here with the sparkles doesn't get too loopy. Sometimes it's easy for it to not to be part of the stitch in the way it needs to be. It can be a little looser than the other yarn. Okay, so we're going to work this all the way around, and let me just talk you through the rest of this round. When you get all the way to the end, after you work the wattle stitch in this chain 1 space, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the chain 2 by putting your hook right into that space. And this is where I recommend, especially if you're new to the wattle stitch, that you use a stitch marker and just put it right there in that chain 2 space. And that'll just prevent a beginner, if you're an absolute beginner, it'll prevent you from kind of continuing to go around and round without joining. And because this stitch does look best when you turn at the end of each round. Okay, so go ahead and work round 2 until this piece is the width that you desire. I wanted to show you the last join. I'm going to join with the slip stitch to that chain 2 space. This is after having worked 27 rounds using the wattle stitch. And then go ahead and give it a chain and a tug. And I'm going to go ahead and clip a generous strand just like this. And let me go ahead and give you just a quick tutorial on how to hide this loose strand. Let me go ahead and thread it into my yarn needle. And since this cowl is totally reversible, you just have to be careful how you hide this thread. I'm going to bring it down into the yarn like this. And let's go ahead and run it down into some more stitches by coming down like this, and under these 3, and down here into this stitch, and then I'm going to run it under these stitches just like this. And I think that's going to be plenty. I'm going to pull back on this a little bit. And now taking your sharp scissors, you want to cut close, but not too close to the stitches. You want to make sure you don't cut your stitches, only the yarn. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and show you the width of this. The width from really the bottom is over here where we started to the top is approximately 12 inches. That took me 27 rounds using the wattle stitch. Now, depending on the yarn that you have, you may want to work fewer rounds, or you may want to work additional rounds for this. But whatever you decide, I think as long as you keep within the parameters of 12 inches or so wide, and but between 40 and 42 inches around, that would be for the medium to large. Now, again, if you want that to be larger, with the circumference going around, you can certainly do that, as I mentioned at the beginning. Well, I hope you enjoyed making the Easy Beginners wattle stitch cowl with me today. If you did, I would love to hear from you. Please just feel free to comment below. God bless. Bye-bye.